Hello, I'm Derek and welcome back to Coach's Corner. This is a podcast designed for professional coaches looking to develop themselves in the fitness industry and improve their one-to-one coaching business. So in this episode, I'm joined by a special guest, Jenny Devonshire, and we discuss how to deal with imposter syndrome. So Jenny has been working in the fitness industry for over 9 years now, and she is a personal trainer, a Pilates instructor, and a yoga teacher. Not only that, as well as her PT qualifications, Jenny also has a degree in psychology, and she's just finished a master's in sports psychology. So let's get her on. Where is she? There we go. Hello, Jenny. How are you?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Welcome to the podcast. Jenny, I'm incredibly jealous of your backdrop. That is looking incredibly cool. Normally, I kind of have the better camera set up with all the guests I bring on, but I think you're definitely winning this one. So well done on the backdrop. Right, Jenny, welcome to the podcast. So, our topic of the day is how to deal with imposter syndrome. So
hmm
this is something that, when I teach courses especially, and when I work with PTs, it's something they massively struggle with. And I know it's something that you've previously struggled with, and then this is an
hmm
area you've went and studied in and you become a professional in. So I thought you'll be the perfect person to bring this on. So the way I like to do the podcast, I like to kind of have three key sections. So what I'd like us to do is kind of have a big overview on imposter syndrome, what it's about, and like your experiences. Then I want to talk about, specifically PTs. I mean, this is a podcast for everybody, but this is mostly watched by PTs and coaches. So we'll talk about our industry and
hmm
areas it affects them. And then finally, I want some tips of how to overcome it, some strategies to overcome it, and things that people can take away from the podcast. So let's start with the overview. So what is imposter syndrome? How would you sum up imposter syndrome?
Well, it's as it sounds. So it's like imposter syndrome, imposter phenomenon, imposterism, perceived fraudulence. Those are all
Mm-hmm.
terms used to describe the same concept. And basically, it is that feeling of being an imposter. So whatever position you've got to, PT, in academia, even as a parent, feeling
Mm-hmm.
like you shouldn't have got where you've got to, that you're an imposter, and that it's only a matter of time before you kind of get found out. So people tend to sort of live in this fear that at any moment everyone's going to realize that actually they're not as good as they think they are. So the first work was done by two psychologists, Clance and Imes. They kind of came up with the term imposter phenomenon. And they thought it was only in high achieving women or only in women, but they've also found that it is also men suffer from it as well,
Mm-hmm.
and it's across various different domains. It's very prevalent in academia. It's obviously prevalent in PTs,
Yeah.
teachers, managers. Like it basically is across the board. Every industry, people will suffer from it.
Yeah.
There's what I won't go into too much detail about the characteristics of it, but I'll go over one part that I think is actually quite important. So there is the thing called the imposter cycle, and so basically, when people they have a sort of an event that's going to cause them to feel like an imposter, so an interview, maybe I guess
Mm-hmm.
starting a new job, things like giving a presentation, and then people with imposter syndrome will tend to fall into two categories. They'll either over prepare, so they'll spend hours and hours and hours preparing for this event, or they'll procrastinate, which is a
Yeah.
kind of it's like self-handicapping. So you can blame it on that. But then they will like frantically prepare. Then it will come to the event because they're not actually imposters, because they are generally talented in this area, they will do well. And then this is followed by a really brief period of, sort of relief. And but that is really short lived because like kind of the key part of this is they fail to internalize that success. They'll blame it or attribute it to external factors such as luck. Even
Mm.
things like, the person feeling sorry for them getting the job because they feel they're pitching them or no one else applied for the job, or they'll attribute it to their over preparation, and then they'll think that they have to do that much work each time, which causes stress in itself. This then leads to those feelings of fraud and imposter syndrome kind of again. They'll think it was like, it wasn't me, it was because of all these other factors, and then the cycle repeats. So that's like a common theme within
Yeah.
imposter syndrome.
How? Yeah. Yeah. But It's normal, right? It's something that everybody suffers with, but I guess some people suffer with it more. But it's
Mm.
also a good thing, right? In a certain sense, does it tell you like you're challenging yourself as well, like when you're putting yourself in uncomfortable situations. Like sometimes you get a job that is a step up, but then you're raising
Hmm.
your bar to go to that step up. So I guess that nerves could also be a good thing as well, to say that you are challenging yourself to a certain extent. But it's something that everybody does suffer with as well. Let's talk about your
Well,
experiences,
there's
because
actually, sorry, there's the thing is, it's not just doubting yourself when you start a new job. It's more like in the face of success, you still doubt yourself. So you never
yeah,
feel confident because you still feel like an imposter because you don't think you deserve to be there because you think it was something else that got you there, rather than just be
right,
like, oh
right,
no, I'm actually stretching myself here. It's like kind of like, yeah, it's when you continue to feel like a fraud, even though you've got plenty of success under your belt, kind of
right,
thing.
right. And that's happened to you, hasn't it?
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
like you're one of the most successful PTs I know,
Mm.
one of the most experienced, one of the most, um, you know, I forever have, we've known each other a long time, and I've always looked up to you as someone that's always studied, always been like so good at your craft, but still you've doubted yourself. And let's talk
Hmm.
about that, because I never understood why. So
Oh
let's talk
yes.
about.
Yeah, so it's funny because it's actually like it's really prevalent in academia, but I never remember feeling it when I was at uni. Like I don't know, I just never did. But it was only actually when I started as a PT when for me it like really like
Mm-hmm,
reared its head. So I got a job as a PT,
mm-hmm,
and I think like maybe it's because I realized I didn't know everything, but you're not meant to. But anyway, so started as a PT, really didn't think I was good enough, like I shouldn't be there. I didn't know enough.
yeah,
So my solution was to just do more courses, and everyone
yeah,
laughs at me as being like the most qualified PT because I would just
yeah,
do course after course after course, thinking that once I do this course, I'm going to feel like I know enough, that I'm good enough. So I do like I did all the ones I started at Virgin. I did all the like Viper, TRX. I did kettlebells, advanced kettlebells, like 3 different courses on kettlebells, and then I did my pre-postnatal. Didn't feel like I knew enough on my pre-postnatal,
mm-hmm,
so I did like an advanced pre-postnatal, and then even then I was like, right, my anatomy is not good enough. I don't know enough. So then I did my Pilates qualification
mm-hmm,
because I knew that Pilates is much more into the anatomy, and I thought, right, then I will feel like I know enough. I can work with these people. Did that, still didn't work, still doubted myself, and then I did yoga, but that was just something for me. But then I did also extra qualifications, so constantly doing courses, constantly studying, and like one of my friends who's like, yeah, she's really good PT, really respect her, and she was always like wondering like why are you doubting yourself? Like you're really good. You're much better than like a lot of people. You're a lot much better than most of them. But it was like
yeah,
it was just coming. Yeah, so just constantly thinking that I didn't know enough, and I think part of it was almost like I thought like I had to be a physio because I didn't realize that actually we're not physios, we're PTs. Like if they need to
mm-hmm,
see a physio, you know refer on to a physio. So it was
mm-hmm,
like just thinking like I need to know everything. If I don't know everything, I don't know anything, and it's kind of
yeah.
one of those that is a kind of a common theme within it. But I just must say that I did get 100% on the imposter syndrome questionnaire, so mine's pretty bad.
So you can get imposter syndrome in a sense of you want to apply for something, but then you have an imposter then back out, and then
Yeah,
there's imposter syndrome where you're successful, but then you still suffer, and then you don't believe that you should have
yeah,
got where you got. So
yeah.
there's two kind of
Well, yeah, the
sections of
backing
it.
out, you'd just like you'd let it get to you, and then you wouldn't go for jobs that you probably could get because you're like, I'm not good
Yeah,
enough. But yeah, so both ways are gonna hold you back.
yeah, yeah. Okay, and the reason I got you on this is because it's not just you've gone through that, you've been studying this, haven't you?
Hmm.
You've
Yeah,
during your masters in sports psychology
yeah,
used imposter syndrome as your dissertation.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes,
So just a quick sum up of like what the dissertation was about, and what you
yes.
the
Yeah, so I knew I wanted to do imposter syndrome because obviously it has affected me so much, and
Yeah.
it was completely off topic from anyone else. But so basically, what I knew I wanted to do on that subject, so I started researching anything I could find about it that could potentially find a link, and I found a link between, well, it's a negative correlation between imposter syndrome and resilience. So if you're more resilient, you're less likely to have imposter syndrome. So it kind of like snowballed from there. And I ended up doing an intervention study with coaches, so sports
Hmm.
coaches, to make it sport specific. But what I did would apply to anyone really. And yeah, I did an intervention based study. So I compared two kind of methodologies or what techniques to help reduce imposter syndrome within the sports coaches. So yeah, I think I read like over 100 journal articles on the subject, a couple of books.
Yeah.
It was all I was like basically
Yeah.
that to eat, sleep, and breathe. Is that I can't remember if that's the
Hmm.
term, but yeah,
Yeah.
basically it was everything for 6 months. That's all I looked at. So yeah, I would
Right.
say I yeah definitely learned a lot.
The right person for this podcast. Right.
Well,
Before we
hopefully.
right, before we talk about kind of what people can do about it, approaches,
Hmm.
processes, and even how you would work with somebody now. What
Hmm.
let's relate it back to our industry and talk about PTs, because this podcast is for PTs, for coaches,
Hmm.
and PTs go through. I know it's in everyday life, but let's like try to make it specific for PTs. Day one, week one in a brand new gym, I feel imposter syndrome is right on your
Hmm.
shoulder the whole way, right? It is. It's not a nice feeling sometimes. Day one, week one in a new gym, you're battling so much. You're trying to make new friends in the workplace. You've got new members to approach and a new business to start up. But PTs suffer with other stuff as well, like floor walking. They can
Yeah.
sometimes like going up and meeting people. Being in shape can be one as well. Like,
Hmm.
everybody has some form of body dysmorphia. Uh, of course, in some it's worse than others, but PTs are kind of always battling. Oh, I'm no good at chatting to people. I'm no good at sales. I'm not in a good enough shape. I don't know
Hmm.
enough. Is this job for me? And that kind of can really play in your head in day one, week one of a new
Hmm.
gym, can't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's a very scary place, and especially it's like where it depends if you're self-employed or a lot of so a lot of obviously PTs are
Hmm.
working self-employed in the gym. So you go in, no one introduces you to any of the other PTs. You don't know
Yeah,
any of the other members of staff. It's really
yeah.
daunting. You're looking at them, they're really busy. You might instantly start like comparing yourself to them, like thinking, oh, they know what they're doing, I don't know. And yeah, it's really intimidating. And then
Hmm.
it can be, and also I think that if you are spending a lot of time on your own, you get those thoughts, and then it's not, they kind of spiral, and then you can start believing them, and yeah, it's just like a very scary space to be in.
Yeah, because like in like a normal job, a corporate job, or even like jobs within the gym, that's even like a receptionist or the
Mm,
membership team. They have a desk, they have a place to be, they have a manager, they have
yeah.
hours to work. Personal trainers, like even in an employed model, it's still the same. You're kind of on a 0 hour
Hmm.
contract, and you're going to get paid via a client base. So you need to get a
Hmm.
client base. So your diary is sometimes your own. It's all about diary management. It's like, right, I've got nowhere to be apart from because I've got an empty diary, so I need to manage this time.
Yeah.
And you can be so just lost with your
Hmm.
time. And then your work day is just so different to like what a normal kind of job's work day is. And
Hmm.
with that, that's when your mind can start playing tricks. It's a busy peak time. You're standing there, you're looking around, gym's
Yeah.
chaos, and you're like, why is everyone training and I'm not training anyone? And you've got to go say
Yeah.
hello to people. And oh yeah, day one week on a new gym, off a new gym, you got to love it.
Yeah.
And like you
And
say, with
also,
train, yeah, go on.
I was going to say, like, it's very easy as well. Like, once you have kind of got into that downward spiral, to pick yourself up and make yourself go and talk to people, it's very easy just to give up and just be like, oh,
Yeah.
I'll do it tomorrow. I'll go and talk to people tomorrow. And then you give into it and like run away and like go home or what have you. And then the next day, it's kind of because you've like fed into it a bit that day, then it's even worse the next day. And it's like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, just having to keep picking yourself up.
I teach people on my courses all the time, floor walking, and the theory of it's easy. Going to put into practice is hard, but it's
Hmm.
something that people do get better at. And I do love when I meet people further down the line when they were a bit nervous day one, week one, then they settle into the gym and then that's just their gym. Like, we've worked together in
Yeah.
gyms, nervous day one, week one, then 6 months later, that's your gym, you're comfortable in that space. So if you are listening, you just moved to a gym and you're having a bit of a tough first week, it's okay. That's very, very normal. And it does get better. But let's talk about, and hopefully this podcast will help a little bit. I guess also with PTs, you are constantly comparing yourself to other people, right? And sometimes you just need to be, especially knowledge-wise, you need to be like, actually, it's okay that there's a PT in this gym with 8 years more experience than me.
Yeah.
That's okay. And it's okay that member's a little bit more advanced than me. I'm not trying to train them. There's somebody that I know more than, and I can help them get consistency in their training, accountability, structure into their life. And I can help this person, these group of people. These people are a bit too advanced for me, so I won't go near them just yet. But these people are my people. And I think once you realise that there is a client base for you within that gym, that does help massively with... what's that background noise? Why is there fire engines going off?
Always on.
It does help massively knowing. Sometimes you need to be like, okay, there are people that know more than me in this gym. That's fine, but initially it can be overwhelming being around people that are better standard than you.
Yeah, and I think it's like just knowing that it's like it's a skill that we develop. Like I look back at me when I first qualified, and like I just like I've learned so much, and I've changed how I train people so much. And it's okay to be learning as you go, and also it's okay not to know everything. I think that's the thing that I really had. It's like you don't have to know everything to know enough to help people. And if you focus on what you can share, and and also if there are people more qualified in the gym, great, you can learn from them, and you don't compare yourself, and focus, and also don't try and be every trainer. Like don't try, like have the things that you're good at. Don't try and work with people that you can't help or aren't your right clients. Like be really specific, because you don't need to be good at everything. Specialize, have the things that you really enjoy and you're good at, focus on that rather than focusing on what you can't do or what you don't know. And I think that's a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, so let's now talk about what people can do. So I mean, you're definitely going to lead this section. Like what have you, from your dissertation and your studies, kind of what's the way to overcome imposter syndrome? What's like the process, like in the clinical world? How would you work with somebody? Like what's let's talk about that. Let's go down that route.
So when like part of my dissertation, it was an intervention, and so one of them was kind of based around rational emotive behavior therapy, which is like a bit like cognitive behavior therapy. And it's basically, if you think about imposter syndrome, you aren't an imposter, you are qualified, you should be there. So that is an irrational belief, and rational emotive behavior therapy is about challenging irrational beliefs. So it was based on the ABCDE model, which is by Albert Ellis. So you've got A is the adversity or activating event. So it could be starting a new job, floor walking. And then you've got the B is beliefs. So it's they say that like rather than it being the event that causes the emotional response, it's our beliefs around the event. So the B is our beliefs, and the beliefs are not feelings. That is consequences. So the consequences of your belief, like I don't know what I'm doing, is feeling anxious, feeling like an imposter, and things like that. And so feelings, it could be anxiety, and actions would be not going on the gym floor. That's just the ABC. So first of all, you want to be really clear on that. So if you are just starting a new job, try and take some time and just think like, right, what are my beliefs? What am I thinking? And then try to be like really take a kind of a step back and try to see it a bit more rationally. So then the next stage in the process is D, and that is either distraction, which is like if it's not really the time to be able to dispute them, which I'm about to come on to, you can use distraction. So it's things like just saying stop to yourself to try and stop those thoughts. You could do something like so a little bit of mindful practice, like just stare at your palm of your hand and try to really focus on it really intently. And also like our brain, the reason we kind of ruminate about things is because our brain's trying to help us to think about it. most of the things that we do, it might seem like they're detrimental, but it's actually, there is a reason behind it. If you say to yourself, I'm going to think about this, I'm going to worry about this at 6 p.m. or 7, whenever, your brain goes, okay, they've got it taken care of. I don't have to keep reminding them. And it might help you with that rumination. But that's not like a long-term solution. That's just if you need it,
Right.
like a quick fix kind of thing. So the D, someone's doing something outside. The D is disputation. So you're disputing those thoughts. So you can do things. So first of all, it's like, what is the evidence? So like if it was feeling like you don't know anything, what is the evidence you don't know anything? So you've got your
Right.
qualification as a PT, you've studied
Yeah.
it. So it's basically looking at what is the evidence, what would my friends, family, colleagues say? Would they agree with this belief? What, and then is it rational? And just trying to, is it logical? So trying to look at it like that a bit more, take a step back and think, is this actually evidence? And then the other one is, what are the alternatives? So like say something like someone doesn't want to talk to you in the gym floor,
Yeah.
like, and you think, oh, they think I'm rubbish, or they hate me, or whatever you're going to think. Your alternatives would be they're in the middle of their training session, they've only got
Yeah.
X amount of time, they haven't got time
Hmm.
to stop and talk to me today. So it's like, rather than taking things personally, it's like, right, what else could it be? And then also you've got to work out, like, is it useful? Probably not. But so it's like, yeah, just again. And also the last one is like decatastrophizing. So even if that belief was true, what is the worst thing that could happen? Or what is the
Hmm.
worst case scenario? And if it is true, what could I do to overcome it? So maybe you say like, oh, I don't know enough on particular a lift or what have you. Go and study it, learn some techniques
Yeah.
and like some new cues, and then just change it. And then the final step is the E, which is the effects. So, what are the effects of challenging that belief? So, it could be feeling more confident on the gym floor, talking to more people. And so, basically, you want to like set it out and like take some time to kind of go over it. And when you've practiced that technique for a while, you can do it more quickly in the moment, and that just helps
Hmm.
you just to realize that actually maybe your thoughts are just thoughts and they are not necessarily reality, and just taking that time to realize that and step away from it. So that was one of the things you can do, which I think is quite a useful little one you can do.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the evidence side of that. That's the
Mm.
one I jumped at. What's the evidence in this? That's a really
Is
good
there
one.
any? Probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're right. Like when you go up to someone on a gym floor, you're going into their world. They're in their
Mm.
own little world, and you're just trying to jump into their world and say
Yeah,
hello and stop what they're doing, not knowing what they're going through or where they are,
yeah.
and you want them just to react with you. And it's
Hmm.
just like, it's okay if they're not ready to do that right now. There
Yeah.
might be another time, but there might be someone that will react to you right then, and then eventually you'll get them in your world, and you'll be on a neutral ground. But when you go up to
Hmm.
someone in their world, and you're just like, "Hi, mate, I'm new to the gym. I just want to give you some advice," they might not be willing
Yeah.
to take that advice in, and you shouldn't. If you step away, take that personally, and
Yeah.
see that as like, what's the evidence they were actually attacking you? They just you've just tried to quickly go into their world, and
Hmm.
they weren't ready for that. But yeah, where's the evidence that it's you that's the issue? There's none.
Hmm. No.
Right. Okay. Um. So then. Okay. So what? So you work with people now, don't you? One to
Hmm.
one, and um you offer coaching on this. Walk us through like what that looks like. So how would you work as one? Because there's if someone is suffering, if someone really does suffer imposter syndrome, it's going to hold them back to a certain extent. And
Hmm.
it's something like if you knew this sort of support was out there, you would have had this years ago, and this is
Yeah.
why you studied it. So what would it look like to work with someone like you, and how would you help somebody?
Yes, obviously it's individual to some people.
Hmm.
People have different problems with different areas. There's different characteristics of imposter syndrome, but basically, it's usually on a kind of 8 week session
Hmm.
basis. But some people might need less, some people might need more. But it's basically really working one to one, either in person or on Zoom, and kind of seeing what their belief, like using the ABC model, helping them to kind of realize what their beliefs are, using a bit of rational emotive behavior therapy, and then also depending on the person, it's also acceptance commitment therapy, which is it's a third wave behavior therapy, and it's more
Right.
about like kind of stepping away, like creating distance with your thoughts and realizing they're just thoughts and seeing how you can overcome it. And then there's so basically various different tools and techniques just to kind of get more a handle on what's real and what's not, and what like little techniques they can do, building confidence and also building up resilience, because that is really important for imposter
Mm.
syndrome. And yeah, so just like one-to-one sessions really to help them overcome it so they don't have to suffer like I did for many years.
Yeah, because especially in our job, I always feel PT is a job about momentum. Once
Mm.
you get momentum in growing your business, get momentum in yeah, well, just you've got a client base growing. Once you kind of get busy, you normally stay busy, but like getting that initial ball rolling and giving
Mm-hmm.
yourself the confidence that you do know what you're talking about, you can help loads of people.
Mm-hmm.
If imposter syndrome holds you back, then you need to look into that, because you get over that. That's going to help you in your career.
Oh
You'll
yeah.
you'll you'll build a momentum up, and then you'll grow a business, and you do what you want to do, which is in our life help other
Mm-hmm.
people. And we
Yeah.
can offer so much as a personal trainer to clients, but sometimes you need to, not sometimes, all the times you need to step back, work on yourself first, and then that'll
Mm-hmm.
help you work with other people.
Yeah,
Is there
exactly.
anything else you want to cover that we've kind of not covered? Is there any other tips that you want to bring up right now, or
Um,
have we kind of covered the main stuff you want to say?
there's another one I quite like. It's just because I said before about the imposter cycle and not
Hmm.
internalizing success. I really like this. Is you can like write a list of all your achievements and like just keep adding to it as you go.
Hmm.
I mean, you probably won't even remember them all because we do. Like, we have this negativity bias where we're biased to thinking about the negatives rather than the positives. And like, so if you just write a list down, like it could be really tiny little things, and whenever you're feeling like your confidence is like you need a little boost, or you're starting to feel like an imposter, look down that list and just think like, it will just help you realize and like reflect on the fact of how far you've come, what you have achieved. It could be things
Mm.
like testimonials from your clients when you've got some,
Yeah.
anything like that, or like getting onto the course, getting a job, and then you can just look over it and just be like, oh, okay, so I have achieved all of this. Maybe I'm not an imposter. Maybe I do
Mm.
deserve to be here, and just like it might help you a little bit.
I think that's a good point, actually. I think it's easy to be hard on yourself and
Mm.
not look how far you've come. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Especially, yeah, like you said with our job, if you look back at what we did, we worked together in Virgin 9 years
Mm.
ago. Think about our sessions back then, the way we approached
Yeah.
PT back then. If you actually think how far we've come and how much we've developed year on year, it's quite a good
Mm-hmm.
point, actually, to look back, and it's easy to miss how much you change, how much you constantly
Yeah.
study yourself and develop. Yeah, so I love that. Like that idea. Good. Right. Jenny, there will be people that would want to find out more, learn some more,
Mm-hmm.
and I know you're doing loads on LinkedIn at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
You're up on my Instagram every single day. There's different reels coming up. So how can people find you and kind of get in touch with you?
Yeah, so you can either go on Instagram, it's Jenny C. Devonshire, or it's the same on TikTok if you're a
Mhm.
TikToker. And I think you can also find me on LinkedIn, Jenny Devonshire. But otherwise, my website would be www.pause2 numerical 2 perform.co.
Mhm.
And that would be another place. So if you want to send me to any of those places, you can send me a message
Mhm.
and get in touch. And yeah, that's it.
Cool. What sort of things are you trying to post on your Instagram? What you're going to do with your Instagram
Um,
page?
Well, I've done a few on like imposter syndrome, but also just
Hmm.
various things like techniques for like anxiety, confidence, cognitive diffusion, which is creating space between your thoughts. So all the stuff I've
Hmm.
kind of learned from psychology are on there. So just
Yeah.
ways that you can, little techniques that you can use just to help hack the brain a little bit.
Nice. And then if someone wants to take it further, so go to your page for just general tips. And if they want to go further and maybe take on some one-to-one coaching, they can just
Hmm. Send
link
me
in
a
your
DM
bio,
and
yeah?
yeah, yeah,
And you can
that's it.
take it from there. Very good.
Yeah,
Right, guys.
thanks.
Jenny, thank you very much for coming on. I hope you found that useful. and very interesting, reach out to Jenny, follow her page. She's posting loads of great value at the moment. Right, guys, thanks for listening. If you've been watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe to the channel. If you listen to this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and please follow the podcast because it supports it a ton. Right, that's it for Coach's Corner. We'll be back. I'll be back next week with a different guest. I'm sure Jenny will be on in the future as well. We'll get you to do another episode and we might go a bit deeper on another subject like this a bit further down the line. Right, thanks Jenny for coming on. Thanks everybody for listening, and yeah, I'll see you next week.